Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this live. I'm feeling much better. Yesterday I had really bad hay fever and I wasn't feeling well. Today, feeling much better. Weather's nice as well. Alhamdulillah, everything's nice for anybody who has hay fever allergies. They know how good it feels when the weather gets better. So anyway, how's everyone doing? I thought I'd do a Q&A. I try and do at least two Q&As a month, sometimes more. Someone's, I liked you more when your hair was long. Okay, this is my cousin leaving that comment. Uh, Later on, I don't want to say a date. It takes just so long. Assalamu alaikum, walaikum salam. Where are you watching from? That is the question. Where are you watching from? Belgium, UAE, Tunisia. Wow. Tunisia. So where are you watching from? Ireland? Morocco? Western Hemisphere? Liverpool. When was the last time I went to Liverpool? I think I went to Liverpool 11 years ago. Somalia. Never been to Somalia. Food must be nice there. Middleton, Iceland. Question regarding endogenous retroviruses. What are the percentages of it going into the same spot as a human? I get this question quite a few times. It seems to be reposted again and again by the same person. I don't know if this is you. It's still an argument for homology, essentially. So, firstly, let's not pretend it's something different to anything else that we've discovered. It's part of the same package. It fits within homology. It is a argument from this is similar in the human genome and in the chimp genome. Why do these things exist? These are viruses or whatever it is. Okay, so now let's start asking a series of questions. Are we sure that it's not functional? Are we sure that it's just a virus and it's just harmful to the body, or not beneficial? Um, are we sure about that? Also, can we not explain this from a design perspective that there are similarities due to there being a common designer? Does it have to be that this is due to common ancestry? Like, we have to ask these questions now. I don't accept this idea that, okay, there's this particular feature and we know that it's purely vestigial and it's not functional. How do we know that? We've seen time and time again things are functional. Okay, I actually saw some newspaper pages today about Trump, and I was thinking about taking a picture because it's quite a historical thing, with what happened with him. But anyway, is he done? No, I just don't think he cares. I think he's just going to go ahead and go with the election. He may even win it for all we know. um, if these are viral sequences, then it's not an argument for homology. Many of these sequences apparently non-functional as demonstrated by knockout tests. Again, how is this categorical? We've seen this time and time again. We've seen that we're being told this thing is non-functional, and later on we find out it's functional. For how long did we think junk DNA was non-functional before we found out there was a function? So it is still an argument for homology. I don't understand why it's not. And thank you for your comment, Septim Sniffer. So you could please let me know why you think this is not functional. How do you solve Euthyphro's dilemma? Okay, that's a different question. I mean, let's deal with the endogenous retroviruses thing that you're asking about first. But on this, on this issue, on this basic issue, is an action good because God decreed it, and then therefore they would say it's arbitrary, or is it that it was good, therefore God chose it? In that case, there's a standard, moral standard um, outside of God's power, if you like, and that doesn't make any sense. So, what we would say as Muslims is we wouldn't accept that things are done arbitrarily, right? That God just says, do this, and therefore it's good. We believe that God is wise and there's wisdom. So that breaks this dilemma. It's not just the case that there's a standard outside of God. That doesn't make any sense. But what we say is every action that God does is God's attribute is not just that he is good and he is wise. We may be going through something that looks bad, but behind it there's actually good. So overall, there's wisdom behind every single decree of God. That's the way I would answer that. Trump is worse than Biden, but supports him pro-Israel. How do you explain the existence of antibiotic resistance bacteria from non-Darwinian means? I mean, these are things which I think are really these are things I think that really don't matter in from the, like, say if we have antibiotic resistance due to selection pressures, right? That does not go that far at all in trying to show that selection is the creative active force which generated all of the biological systems that we see. That's the way I would say. I would say it's not like they make it out like, okay, we have selection pressures. And by the way, this is also being challenged, this whole idea that the way that they try and explain this antibiotic resistance, but they try and use this small micro evolutionary process to say, therefore, selection can do all of this other great stuff. And it just doesn't, I mean, it's not a solid argument. They're stretching it way too far. Can non-conscious organism form or evolve consciousness? This is a huge issue. Huge issue. Have you ever tried street dawah? I find talking to randoms is better than debating brainwash people who come to argue. Okay, I guess so. I mean, it makes more sense. Sometimes you do end up having better conversations with these people than others. The ERV sequences do not code for proteins. That doesn't mean they're not functional. I'll correct my original statement there, sorry. But what does it mean? But what it does mean is that substituting the ERV sequence with a completely different sequence doesn't change the function, similar to non-coding junk DNA. Okay, from a design perspective, that doesn't make much sense. Like, okay, so this is the crux of the matter. Why? Why couldn't that fit under a design perspective? So I get this question quite often now. So I have answered it a few times, and I know this isn't you, but some of his fanboys are getting really upset. So, firstly, I'm the one who made the challenge. He accepted it, so it's going to go ahead, inshallah. That's not a problem. But it takes time to set up these things. It's not something that just happens instantly, especially now with universities having their exam periods and whatnot. It's not something that you can just do straight away. So it's going to take some time, but we're working on it. New member. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. So I want to tell everybody this is such a important thing. I have started memberships on my channel. I don't do adverts. I don't do anything like that. I've made all my content free. But and I want you guys to enjoy it without adverts. And I have real problem with YouTube adverts because there's music inside and there's sometimes imagery which is haram, and even the ads are sometimes, so yeah, people try and filter it and do various things. I don't want to do anything like that, but the way that this channel is supported is through YouTube memberships. So well done, brother Farouk MCD, thank you for becoming a member, and I'd highly recommend everyone else watching, please do become a member of this channel. Jazakallah khair. Can non-conscious organism form or evolve consciousness? As far as I understand, probably from the language. One explanation implies intention, the other relies on randomness. Probably randomness is how you can randomly copy it. I don't know what this is about. I had an atheist elderly woman ask me, God punishes people. Does this make sense? I have no response. Help me. Okay, so firstly, this is why everybody should be regularly reading the Quran and understand what is our theology, what do we actually believe. Allah is the most merciful, Allah is the most kind, and Allah doesn't punish someone unless they're guilty. Allah is not unjust to any of his creatures. From the time this earth was created to the last man on earth, the first person to show kindness and the last person to show kindness, every animal that shows kindness, every care or concern a human being has, a mother that sends her child to school is on the way watching her child get on the school bus, all of the kindness and compassion of this entire world is not even one part of Allah's mercy, right? And Allah is the reason why a human being at all feels any emotions or feelings or any of those type of values that we have. So, how could the one who's the source of all of that be unjust or cruel? He's not. So, on the day of judgment, everyone will find out, uh, and all these curtains will be lifted from our eyes. We will see Allah is the most just and Allah is the most kind, and nobody is punished unless they deserved it. And there's many other verses in the Quran that Allah doesn't punish until He sends a messenger. And why would Allah punish you if you believe and are grateful? And like, there's lots and lots of other things that we can speak about as well. Because those sequences don't reflect similarities and traits. That still doesn't make a difference. Why do Darwinists willing to believe that aliens created humanity when it comes to God? They say it's illogical. Yeah, it's just being inconsistent. The crucial point is we are able to construct the same phylogenetic trees from both coding and non-coding DNA. That's more expected under common ancestry than common design. Again, I don't agree with you. Why would that be the case? Design is a very broad temple, let's say, right? It's a temple of thought. I don't understand why one is more probable than the other. What's your feeling about atheism? They feel logically and morally superior, and they clearly they're not. Yeah, this is a pretension they've always had. I have challenged this fake guy. He's accepted, and we're setting it up. I don't know why his followers seem to think that I need to do things in a particular way. Like I need to send him an email, and it has to be this or that. And it's like, yeah, whatever. Get out of here. It's like we're gonna be having the debate. The communication is going to be done by the society, the university society. That's it. Who are you to, tell me what to do? You told everyone you would pay to invite him, and you still have not. Yeah. So did I put a deadline? Did I say I'm going to do it by 1st of June? Like, what what exactly is your problem? Yeah, all you need to know is who made the challenge. I made the challenge. Okay. I'm the one who made the challenge. I'm the one not hiding behind a camera. I'm the one who wants to go face to face and go tango. Like, why do I need to pay by a certain date or set up something by a certain date? I didn't commit to a certain date. I just committed to having a debate. So yeah, you can just keep waiting. How can atheists believe that all the natural sciences such somehow created themselves and created rules for themselves to follow? How can atheists believe that all the natural sciences such somehow created themselves and created rules for themselves to follow? You mean basically natural selection created human beings with agency, with purpose, who then have all these rules and stuff. Again, it's a big problem with it's a big problem with, how do you explain inorganic matter turning organic and then having consciousness, having intentionality, having agency, having laws? It's essentially it's the limit of it's the limits of scientism. They just can't explain these things. It's very hard to remove teleology from biology. It's indispensable. Yet, from a Darwinian perspective, it's it's something that shouldn't exist. I haven't seen the video where Ayana Lee Hersey stating she's now a Christian, believes in God, upholds. Yeah, I don't know if she actually is a Christian. I don't know. Maybe she's just doing it to get attention. Well, she just seems like an attention seeker, so that's her past. And her past, as Muhammad Hijab showed in that discussion with her, she's you know, we know what she's like. This guy keeps posting the same thing. Like, you could just keep posting, no problem. He's literally just spamming the chat with the same thing. You can just keep waiting, my friend. Don't worry about it. Unless the Creator planned life in such a way to make us appear as if common ancestry were true, at which point this becomes an unfalsifiable claim. Again, I don't agree. Why does any of this favor common ancestry over separate ancestry? Why does it? I still don't get that point. This guy just keeps asking the same question. I'm gonna have to time this person out or ban them because they just literally put user in timeout. There you go, timeout for you, mate. I was having a nice conversation with Septim. Mod needed. I think so. How do you respond to people who say there's no reason behind animal suffering? Because humans existed, we would be able to help them, so there's no test. Again, how does that make any sense? Like, sometimes what is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Like, animals suffer, humans suffer, life is a test. Saying aliens created humans at least a step towards creating a higher intelligence. Yep. What do you think about Chat GPT and the rise of AI? AI has been around a long time. We're just making more inroads and speeding things up and making things accessible. I mean, it's a great tool. It could be used for good, it could be used for evil, just like anything else. The thing is with design, all details would be in fact intentional, even if you really understand the purpose. So it would be possible. The wrong high intelligence, though, seems like a step towards shirk. Not sure about that statement. My atheist friend asked me if it's possible to prove that God cannot lie. He said, why believe in the Quran if there's a possibility that God lies? Sounds absurd, but I don't know how to rationally answer this. You don't need to rationally answer something that's been asserted without reason. So, why is the onus on us to prove that God doesn't lie? The onus should be on the person who claims God does lie, because that goes against the very nature of God, because God's nature is good. In a way, saying God can lie is like saying God cannot be God, because God's nature is good. That's the question, my friend. Septim Sniffer. This is the mother of the point. How do we differentiate between common ancestry and common design? And my contention is you almost cannot. it's it's very hard to come up with a criteria of deciding between common design and common, yawning, common ancestry. It's actually very difficult. For example, let's look at common. Let's look at Darwinism and design. They both make the prediction of adaptations. And guess what you see? The nature. Fantastic adaptations, right? So the same thing that the Darwinists are explaining by publishing all these papers on adaptations is the same stuff that can be explained using intelligent design. Can we scientifically disprove evolution just by disproving the observation and testing can't be applied, and how? And why biologists cite the change in bacteria as evidence of evolution? Firstly, you can't disprove anything using science. Um, Evolution is not something we should be even looking to debunk. What we need to do is we need to challenge the Darwinian interpretation, the naturalistic, reductionist interpretation. Fundamentally, that's being used as a weapon against theism, and that's what needs to be challenged. However, at the same time, Darwinism is the best naturalistic scientific explanation of life because of methodological naturalism. And we can't deny that. We can't say it's not science. I used to in the past as well believe it's not science many years ago, but I came around to believing actually it is science. And the problem is that we disallow certain things from being called science because of methodological naturalism. So methodological naturalism is the problem. It's not the case that we say that, oh, Darwinism is unfalsifiable, therefore it's not science. That's not good. That's not a good enough way to argue. It's better to go for the jugular. It's better to go for methodological naturalism being the real issue. Thank you, Truth and Knowledge. You've actually said something which um, I don't think is known to these bots. Yeah, I am the CEO of Aira. There's lots and lots of things I'm working on. And this fake professor is just one of those things. He's just one action I need to do this year, amongst many other things. I may be the most important thing to him and his bots, but the debate's going to happen when it's going to happen, inshallah. So thank you for highlighting that truth and knowledge. How do we need to balance spirituality when learning Dawah knowledge? How do you do it, especially in relationship with the Quran? Um, to be effective at giving dawah, you need to be in tune with the Quranic way of thinking, the system of thought the Quran has. And if you're not doing that, then your dawah is going to be derailed. So I believe anybody involved in dawah, and here I mean dawah as in dawah to non-Muslims, they need to, I'm not saying they are a student of knowledge, or they necessarily need to be a student of knowledge, but they should definitely be gaining knowledge and spiritual insights through Islamic lectures and talks and books and podcasts and whatnot all the time, because it does help you in the dawah. It goes hand in hand, because I mean, there's one thing I want to say. How do you balance spirituality when learning dawah knowledge? We shouldn't separate out spirituality from learning dawah knowledge as well, because that can be spiritual in and of itself. But I do think it's very, very important that you don't give dawah in a way that's just purely philosophical and logical. You do bring it back home to some really deep spiritual insights that the Quran tries to evoke, and so does the sayings of the prior predecessors and scholars of Islam and whatnot. Septim, if we don't have a naturalistic explanation for some phenomena, are we warranted in concluding a supernatural explanation? No? Okay, another way of putting it, it's a very good question. Even if we have a naturalistic explanation for a phenomena, are we warranted in concluding above the naturalistic explanation, there is also a supernatural explanation? The answer to that one's yes. So there could be a beautiful scientific process like photosynthesis. We can understand it mechanically. We have an explanation. There's no gaps, but that doesn't mean we can't give a supernatural explanation as well. So there's a why explanation, which is theological, and there is a how explanation, which is scientific. We can't do that. Now, is it the case that we can't find a naturalistic explanation, so we go for a supernatural explanation? No, because there may be a naturalistic explanation. So we should just keep looking. But there may be a point at which we realize actually there is no naturalistic explanation. So this could be the origin of life. Could be that we're trying to look for naturalistic explanations and then we realize actually there are none. It is a bit of a complicated issue. It's not as clear cut as, okay, you try 3 times for naturalistic explanation, you don't get it, then you stick to a supernatural one. It's not as simple as that. But there's some general thoughts I wanted to give you about this, which I hope I've done now. Yeah, this is quite interesting. It's not always about disproving the Darwinists. It's about saying, okay, how do you know what you believe is true? What's the evidence you have for it? It's a really good idea to invite Dave. Some of his reasoning approach for stuff like trans identity becomes very hypocritical. What makes you think he wouldn't do that in your debate? I don't know his views about trans identity, and I don't think it matters. I think what matters is that we just have a debate. That's the thing. What I'm not really, I don't really care about his other views. What do you claim is the strongest argument against Darwinian evolution? Firstly, it's their lack of evidence. You know, it's not like they have a really solid theory and then we're supposed to try and challenge it. It's where is their evidence? You know, gradualism. Where is gradualism in the fossil record? That's like one of their biggest problems. Who is this Professor Dave individual? He's a guy online who calls himself a professor and makes videos where he's trying to refute people. Do you believe animals think on their own like the bird and Salman and Islam stories? Yeah, of course. Ashari Athari. I don't think it's important for people watching on my channel and what I discuss, what my own creed is. And I don't like to get into these topics. I believe if you're Athari, if you're Ashari, if you're Maturidi, it's all Sunnism and we're all Muslims. So other differences are not important for the context in which I operate. Well, the ones I have completed is a undergraduate in civil engineering and a master's in philosophy. What the heck? I don't know. I'm gonna ignore that question. Do you think about the idea of evolution related to Allah turning some human beings into apes? Not sure about the verse exactly, but I was just curious. This is interesting. Just want to say a few things about this, right? The first is, do we believe it's possible for Allah to turn an ape-like creature into a human? Yes. Do we believe Allah can turn a human into an ape-like creature? Yes. Both of those things is not what's being claimed by the human chimp ancestry idea. It's actually that humans and chimpanzees have a common ancestor. Is that hypothetically, can Allah do that? Of course, Allah can do anything. So all of these things are possible. But the question is this what happened? Now we believe when it comes to Adam alayhi salam and his wife Hawa, that they were both direct creations of Allah. They didn't have any forerunners, they had no predecessors, they were special creations, and we're their descendants. Apart from that, were there other hominids, Homo erectus, Homo naledi, whatever, Denisovans? Yeah, okay, they lived, they died, whatever. That's not a problem. Is it the case that Allah turned certain humans as a punishment into apes? And rather than happening over millions of years, it happens instantaneously. Yeah, Allah can do anything. Is that related to evolution? In a way, yeah. It shows that things can change. But is that Darwinian evolution? No, because that happened instantly. Is that the scientific theory of evolution? Does it have any correlation to that? No. Okay, if we take a human, this is interesting. Actually, this is really interesting. I'm glad you asked this, Ruby. So you get a human, and that human is punished by Allah. They turn into an ape. If you do a DNA test and you look at the genome of this human and you look at the genome of this ape, is there going to be homology? Interesting question. And why did Allah say ape? Why not another creature? And apes are supposed to be the most similar to us biologically. But does similarity necessitate common ancestry? No. It's just some interesting thought experiments that can be done here as well. Is there no way to differentiate between common ancestry and design? By design, you mean separate ancestry. We would have to throw out DNA-based tools to track genealogy. No. When we track genealogy, like with paternity tests, we're testing within the same species. That's different. Now, common ancestry and separate ancestry, can we be categorically clear in terms of how the two theories make completely different predictions? I don't think we can be. I think that's why there's a lot of confusion here. What could be except from Darwinism? Can believe Allah made all creatures the way that we were in humans. The only exception. Yeah, Schwabe covers this in his evolution book, which is an excellent book. And one of the things that he covers is that within the mainstream Sunni school of thought, you can hypothetically accept all of life evolved except the creation of Adam al-Islam. Wahili, my brother, mashallah, you're watching. This is my brother Wahili. Make sure you check out his channel. I don't know if he's commenting from his channel, though he might not be. Okay, brothers and sisters, it's time to give you guys a quick reminder about the Quranly app. This is a fantastic app which I use. Everyone should be using this app. Basically, we are on our phones all day long. We're zombie scrolling, wasting time. But you can download this app, which will help you build a habit of reading the Quran regularly. And it's something that's going to transform your life. So I've been pushing out this app for a very long time. It's fantastic. Let me know in the chat if you use this app. It's it's really something special. Okay. And in the comments, I'd love to hear those of you who've been using this app and benefiting. Should we accept methodological naturalism as Muslims, or should we support intelligent design? Um, Pragmatically, I believe we should support intelligent design. Other Muslims believe there's nothing wrong with accepting methodological naturalism, and we don't need to bother challenging it and pushing intelligent design. So yeah, I mean, whichever arguments you believe are more persuasive, you go with them. But I used to believe in the same thing. I used to believe that you shouldn't need to invoke the theory of intelligent design because science is based on methodological naturalism. I no longer believe that. I believe methodological naturalism should be challenged. My teacher says stuff like, "Is God real? Whose religion's right?" And questions of the like. I could answer, but it's difficult the way he jumps around. Plus, I'm a student. Try to just stick to God. Don't run off into religion, because that's when you get into moral issues and political issues and theological issues. It gets very confusing. So you stick to just God, right? Um, so is God real? And you can point out things like, how do we know what's real? How do we know the world is real? Do we always need to provide evidence for something for us to believe in it? Um, why were so many great thinkers in the past and even the great thinkers today believers? So there's different. I mean, Allah will open up your mind to these ideas, inshallah. Main thing is you try and stick to just belief in God for now, rather than opening up to other topics. I really like the thoughts of this guy, Septim Sniffer. I tend to agree science is merely the process of uncovering mechanistic explanations of certain features of the world. But in that case, the whole Darwinism debate isn't even about agency. Interesting. It's about mechanisms. So many comments, guys. I'm trying to read them. If anything, they'll use this as sole ammo for their case as well as against him. I think you're here talking about Trump. Yes, inshallah, the debate is confirmed, Mr. Dream. No updates. Same. Wow, so many comments, guys. I mean, one of the things that's come up, and I want to say this, I made a video a few years ago in which I said mistakes that I've made when speaking about evolution, in which I was talking about certain papers that I referenced, and I thought it said something, but it said something else, which is very important to do. You know, so it's important to point out where you thought something was the case when it wasn't the case, or you made a reference which was incorrect. And it is likely to happen because you're dealing with so many papers and so many arguments and so much information. But the point I was making in the video again was it doesn't change the overall point I was making about science not being a source of absolute truth and Darwinism having probabilistic framework assumptions, disputes, and all that stuff doesn't change. None of that changes, but you have to point out where you've said something that was wrong. In the past, many, many years ago, I used to say Darwinism is pseudoscience. I don't say that, as you guys have realized over the past maybe 5, 6 years. That's because again, I realized that was not the correct understanding. That was wrong. Darwinism is not pseudoscience. Yes, there's definitely problems with its falsification because it's constructed in a way that's almost true by definition. You know, you can't challenge many aspects of it because of the way that the debate is framed, and much of the arguments put forth for its truthfulness are stretched, right? Like the argument from artificial selection or the argument from, you know, microevolutionary processes and all these other things. But anyway, long story short, I came to realize I can't say Darwinism is not science because that's not true. So I started saying Darwinism is science, going back maybe to 2018, if not before. So it's important to point out these things. Now, even now, sometimes Muslims are saying things like evolution is a hoax. We can't say that. We can say evolution is an observation, but Darwinism lacks empirical evidence and is weak or whatever. But it's not good to just go with these types of things like it's pseudoscience, it's a hoax, it's this or that. I mean, there were hoaxes in the past with certain fossils. That's definitely there. There's definitely propaganda when it comes to certain arguments being made. But overall, we should keep our narrative very clear. We believe it to be science. We believe it. We believe there's philosophical problems with it. We believe there's scientific challenges. We believe methodological naturalism and other philosophical issues have come in and supported it. We can say all these things, but I'm not in the camp of just, you know, certain people who just say, yeah, just dismiss it out of hand, don't even deal with it, just say it's a hoax. That's not the way to deal with it. You have to confirm, test me, they're related, then you further confirm. How do you dismantle someone who's brainwashed with the idea of consensus around evolution? Don't need to challenge them on the consensus. What's the consensus on? Is there a consensus that life on Earth is different to what it was in the past? Yes. Is there a consensus that we can observe life changing, biological life changing over time? Yes. We can see in the lab, you know, certain things under selection pressures are more likely to survive than others. Is there consensus on that? Yeah. Is there a consensus that science leads to truth? No. Is there a consensus that Darwinism is unchangeable, unchallengeable? It's the literal truth. No. Can we have a consensus that there is such a thing as a problem of induction? Yes. Is there a consensus that Darwinism is based on a probabilistic framework? There's assumptions within the theory, and there's major disputes about its core ideas. That's something you can find biologists from all backgrounds agreeing to this. So, we have to break down what they mean by consensus. Is there a consensus by all the biologists in the world that Darwinism is absolute fact? No. And even if there was, it wouldn't matter, because we have the philosophy of science to show us that science doesn't lead to truth in that way. Yeah, definitely. There's this effort to make science more atheistic and more secular. It's been going on for a very long time. There isn't Darwin's law of evolution, it's Darwin's theory of evolution. It's not the best evidenced, but it's the only theory that fits the naturalistic framework. So let's just get that right. Because naturalism is the reigning paradigm, and the only thing that fits that reigning paradigm is Darwinism, so it's the only game in town. That's the way it is. It's not that it's the only game in town because it's scientifically, rigorously, empirically shown to be the case. Not at all. Wow, so many comments, guys. All right, my brothers and sisters, I'm going to jump off the live and I need to go to sleep. So much for watching, and all your comments and questions were brilliant, and it was very nice to talk to you and so many people from watching from so many parts of the world at this random time. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll be live again soon in a couple of days, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.